This is our last video for week 6. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes on this one slide to remind you about the cultural approach and the structural approach to the study of families and inequality, because this is on your exam and it's important, and I don't feel I covered it well enough in the weeks past. So let me go over that again. We talked about the cultural approach before earlier in this class, but I wanted to just talk about it again. So looking at inequality and inequality among families, coming from the cultural approach, sociologists examine the values, behaviors, and lifestyles that those within social groups like social class, gender, and race have in common to explain inequality. Each social group is thought to have its own values, behaviors, and lifestyles, and this distinguishes the groups from each other. This perspective blames the people who are the victims of inequality for their own plight. The characteristics they imply are generally stereotypes. They imply that there is something better in upper and middle class white families and that help them to succeed, and something missing in lower class families and those and families of color, which force them to fail. The main problem with this theory is that it ignores structural reasons for inequality, such as differential access to education and not starting out with money to help you along the way in the first place. So the alternative, generally sociologists, there are very few sociologists that look at inequality between families or otherwise from the cultural approach, because we have found it to blame the victim for their own problems, and that's generally not the way that we look at things in sociology. But more importantly, we look at structural reasons or broader social reasons for impacts on inequality. So the structural approach examines these factors and looks critically at the notion that our positions in the socioeconomic hierarchy rest solely on individuals' own efforts and abilities. The cultural approach neglects the differential allocation of resources and opportunities afforded to families based on membership in social groups like social class, race and gender, and sexual orientation. So we look at issues like differential access to education, starting out with like concerted cultivation, like you heard about with Annette LaRue, and like that. So I wanted to make sure that you understood the difference between the cultural approach and the structural approach as you go into the exam, because there's one or two questions on the exam about it. Okay, so I wish you all a wonderful rest of your summer. I hope you're all going on fantastic vacations. Myself, I'm going to Canada, which is the answer to your 5th quiz question, and I'm looking forward to going. But don't hesitate to email me if you have any questions through the remainder of our course. All right, thanks for being such a great group.